All right, welcome back to another episode of Moving the Mountain, a creative leadership podcast. Today's guest is Concepcion, except I call him Coco, and he is a real estate mogul. So, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, very excited about today's episode. I was essentially going to just like run this in a format where I'm just trying to get information out of you.
Oh God. Okay. So interrogation. Got it. Okay.
Interrogation.
Sounds good.
More of an interrogation than an interview.
Yeah.
But I've known you, I think now for like what, 10 years?
It's been about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Started in the church and the setup team.
Yep.
And
it's crazy how time flies.
Time flies. Yeah. How old are you?
I am 33.
33. When did you get into real estate? I feel like it was like kind of recently.
Well, I bought my first house when I was 24. So, I'm sorry, 25. So it's been about 8 years since we owned our first house. But over the past 2 years, we've aggressively invested and purchased properties and, sold properties and things like that.
Yeah, I got the stat today. Tanya was telling me it's like something like 38 doors total.
Yeah, well, over time, yeah, it's a little bit. It's probably a little over that over time. We've sold some units over the past couple of years with the market being so high. And right now we're sitting right around, I think 26, 27 doors now.
Wow. Yeah. And so what's your strategy with real estate? First, what got you into it? What was like really the defining moment? But then like, what's your strategy? What's your approach? And how much risk is involved?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. Real estate really was a passion kind of birthed off of personal development and growth. I really started this journey of, nothing's too big. Anything can be accomplished. If someone else can attain it, you can attain it, right? If that person has gone before you and done the thing, then there is a way that you can do that thing. So I started looking into real estate. We had already had our investment property, and I said, I really need to look at how I'm going to be able to acquire more properties and scale without necessarily having hundreds and thousands of dollars to be able to put down on properties, because that's always your caveat when you invest in real estate is you get to a certain place and then you run out of money for down payments. 20% bank loans just don't work. So yeah, that's what really, I went heavy on the personal development, watched a lot of videos, really started finding myself, figuring out who I was versus what people wanted me to be, and really got comfortable with that. And once I did that, it was like the walls just broke open. Like,
so yeah, what do you mean by that? Explain that a little bit.
I was really trying to fit in a box of what I thought I should do or what I should be. I was a barber for many years, and loved it. I still miss it to this day.
Never cut my hair.
I never cut your hair?
No, I don't think so.
No. You must have canceled the appointment.
Probably. I think maybe we probably talked about it.
Probably, yeah.
I'm very particular though about my hair.
I had really enjoyed it. I loved the conversations, loved the people. And then, I got the opportunity to partner up with our mutual friend Jake and start the alarm company that we started. And that was where I was really introduced to the corporate world, I guess you could say. And that's where I started saying, all right, I need to fit into a box, or I need to be able to do X, Y, Z. I need to be able to communicate, email a certain way, do certain things. So that was kind of a lost identity period where I was kind of stuck in limbo, guy coming from just cutting hair all the time, 24/7 to now trying to make it into corporate and do the thing and be a business owner. And then the switch just flipped, because once I realized I could just be myself and do this, I could just be Coco. It was amazing. And then, I brought that into buying property, dealing with banks, dealing with sellers, just being myself and just realizing that you can be yourself and accomplish so much without having to fit into the mold that maybe you think you should be in, or somebody else, what they look like or how they do things, So before we kind of get into all that, I feel like you've been attacking real estate even more aggressively over like the past 24 months, and even more so probably over the past
6 months. Like
Yes,
I just like deal after deal after deal.
Yep.
When is enough? What's your goal? What are your financial goals?
That's a good question.
What are you trying to get
I have on my refrigerator, I will be a decamillionaire by the time I'm 40.
What's a decamillionaire?
Just 10 million. I'll make $10 million a year annually.
30 years. You got 7 years.
Yeah.
Oh, recurring,
Yeah.
not just a net worth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is a lot of that going to be done through rents?
Well, it can be done through investment. It can be done through building scalable companies. It can be done through a few different ways.
How are you doing?
So for me, as far as the real estate goes, I believe in speed when it comes to real estate and really doing anything. I think the longer you sit and you wait on a decision, it's more time for that decision to go right by you and get passed on to somebody else, or an opportunity to go right to somebody else. And even if it was a decision that maybe you end up learning wasn't the right decision later on, you are now exponentially more experienced than the person who necessarily sat there and waited.
So you're saying even if a deal goes south, you at least learn things from it to take into your next deal?
Yeah. Yeah. I think everything in life is like that. I think even if you hire the right or hire the wrong person, you've learned so much in that the next person you hire, you're going to be that much better.
Right.
So I think speed is so important. I think if you can move quickly and not get hung up on feeling guilty about decisions, and
that is something I've noticed about you. You don't take a whole lot of time to deliberate.
No, because I'm detached from the guilt of the decision. So I'm not, if I look at something and I say within my logical brain, within the numbers, and I look at it and I say, this makes sense based on real estate growing 10% year, on average every single year. Cash flow is going to be positive. It's only going to require this much as far as CapEx and big expenses. If I can look at that quickly and say, this is what's going to happen, then it makes sense to do the deal, period. So I have no guilt when it comes to making bad decisions anyway. So if I made a bad decision, I'm not someone who's going to put a bunch of pressure on myself after the fact and say, oh, you shouldn't have made that decision. Why'd you do that?
I see what you mean.
So it doesn't affect me like that, where I'm
It's almost like wallowing in the regret of like, oh, I made the wrong decision. I can't believe I did that. Like,
right. But think about it like this. That's where everybody stops,
right,
because
like
they have that regret before they even take action. So they're going to have that regret, right? Before you even took action on what you thought may be a good idea or may not, you're going to have regret on a bad decision. Why? You didn't, it's not even real yet. So I would rather take action, execute to the best of my ability. And then after the fact, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but I'm not going to sit and dwell on it. I'm going to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do,
So what does a deal have to yield for it to make sense for you?
Well, every deal is different. It just depends. So I'll give you an example of the last deal we just did. It was very complex in acquiring it. It was a guy, and again, this is about speed, right? So guy's selling 14 units for 1.7 million. And I looked at the deal and I was like, this is, he's got a couple vacant units, but really this is 3 buildings. One of the buildings alone, if we get it fully occupied, will be worth $1 million in its own. You have the other 2 buildings. So I really bet on myself. That's another thing. Like I really think that I can get that unit occupied. Just because that person comes and they tried something and weren't successful doesn't mean that you can't go work a little harder with your skill set and be successful, right? So guy has these buildings, he's unable to fill the vacancies. We went working out this deal. I'll try to explain the deal. It's pretty complex, but Basically, it was a seller finance deal. The seller was holding the note for 30 years at 6%, which is fantastic right now, especially with the banks. Right now, you're looking at 8-9%. Good credit, money down 8-9% on a commercial deal for buildings, right? So I said, hey, let's see if the seller will let me take over that note, right? So we did that. He had a couple private notes that he really wanted to pay off, so he was asking for a lot of money down, like $350,000. I said, hey, why don't I assume those private notes? I'll take care of paying off those private notes. We'll put some balloons on it, and I give you $150,000 down. In a nutshell, right? That's how the deal went down, and we got it done, and we ended up acquiring the buildings.
How do you find these people? Have you just networked now at this point?
No. Honestly, I have to give my wife credit. She found that deal.
Okay.
She found that deal, and she sent it to me, and she regretted it right after. She was like, I shouldn't have sent you that. Once I started talking about, I'm going to go and get this done. She was like,
too much.
Well, no, she's just like, I should have known if I send you something, you're gonna.
Yeah.
You're gonna,
So you're not looking, action. You're not finding these deals on Zillow.
No, I think, like you said, networking. I have a lot of real estate agents that I talk to. They always bring me deals. Another off-market deal we found came from a real estate agent who wholesaled it. Once people know you're in the market, they find you. Once they know you're buying, and once you do transactions and you complete them and you actually follow through, then people say, hey, you're actually somebody who does business versus somebody who, maybe they brought you something before and you didn't take a serious look at it or whatever it be. Well, once people know you're in the mix,
that you get the deal done fast.
Well, I think people know that I'm serious, that I'm not afraid to take risks, that if there's a deal on the table, that Coco will likely look at it. And if it makes sense, then it makes sense. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I just looked at another property or two houses. We walked through the whole building, each of them, and we were like, this doesn't make sense. The third bedroom's on the bottom floor. It's not even really a third bedroom. I was going to invest with somebody on both of these properties and was like, it doesn't really make sense. We're not going to have enough money here. So we said no and moved on,
And what is that like for you at this point? It's probably different when you first started. What is that price point now where it's like you look at something, it's like, I got to make at least X off this deal or else it doesn't make sense? Yeah.
So anything buy and hold, I'm really open to. I really look at the cash on cash return from the outset. If I have to put a ton of money down, then, I really try to avoid that. If I can use cash flow to pay down debt, then that's what I try to do. But, I'm pretty open to deals, that are going to yield, I don't know, $100,000, $200,000 on a flip or something like that. If we were going to do a flip, probably $75,000 to $100,000, which is a lot, if I'm going to put my money down. That's probably what I do.
So there has to be a lot of meat on the bone for you to like actually consider the
yeah,
deal.
just because time and because of my experience, like I see now that I'm able to navigate challenges in a way that other people get so hung up on. It's just crippling for people. Whereas, somebody said this to me and it was like, it changed my life. It was something I always remember. If you make it a big deal, it's going to be a big deal. If you don't make it a big deal, it's not going to be a big deal. So even now I have 20 something tenants. And if they come to me with a problem, it could be a big deal to them. But when they bring it to me and I make it this big, so yeah, that's fine. We'll take care of that. That's not a problem. It's like, oh my God, this is the greatest landlord ever. I can't believe this, So I think your mind has so much power over how you see things.
Right.
And if you have control over your mind, then you're able to take those situations that a lot of people will find complex or challenging and really diminish it down to, okay, is it gonna make me money? Or is it not gonna make me money? Is this real estate gonna appreciate 10% on average over the next 10 years like it's been doing?
Question on that, right? With real estate as high as it is, I remember like maybe 10 years ago looking at a 3-family in Cranston. It was priced at $325. and needed some work, but it wasn't in too bad a shape. But it was like overpriced. Oh no, I think it was 340. It was a little overpriced, right? I think maybe it was 325 would have been a better, or 300, something around there. Now I'm looking at a 3-family in Pawtucket, and that was priced at $649.
Wow.
Offered 700 on it for a 3-family in Pawtucket. It's like, seems crazy.
Wow.
Like probably 5 years ago, that probably would have been around 250.
Yeah.
300. And then I got outbid even at 50K over.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's like, obviously real estate goes up, but are we looking at in another 3, 4, 5 years, homes in Pawtucket going for $1 million? Is that really where we're at? And is that trajectory sustainable?
Well, I don't know that they would go that high. I think we'll probably see that plateau and evening out that we're expecting to see over the next few years. What you had was a lot of FHA buyers with, Rhode Island housing programs where they were able to get into these houses. So you probably got outbid by somebody who's going to live there and rent it out to other tenants, in which they're still going to. So a 3-family, historically, you buy a 3-family, you have no mortgage. These people are going to buy it, rent it out, and still have a mortgage.
Right.
So that's what it is. But at the end of the day, they're going to pay, let's say $1,300 on their mortgage versus years ago when you'd be cash flowing off a 3-family. So I personally, I don't look too far as to what I think it's going to do. I don't know if it's going to go that high. It could, who knows? But I know right now the market is where it is, and consistently on average, it's had that gain. So I would expect it to plateau a little bit and then maybe go down some. And then as long as you're looking at the numbers as an investor, you want to find those properties that you can add value to. You don't want to buy it that's already done, it has no value add. And as long as you find those properties, you'll be in good shape. Your numbers will work. You're cash flowing. You'll be in good shape.
So Deca Millionaire, where you're making 10 plus million per year, how much of that is passive on doors that you own or are going to be renting? How much of that is on deals that you'd be doing?
Well, I don't know per se. Some of it could be the RMR revenue that we have from our alarm company, which, we did $500,000 this year, which is, what we projected that we would try to do this year, which is great. Obviously, we always want to do more. That's a company where, again, it's that you're sleeping and then, 7:00 in the morning hits on the first and you just see ding, 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 people paying their bills, right? And I really like that. I like not having to expend time. Same thing with real estate. So what that percentage, it's probably going to be something like Pareto's Law, right? 80-20 rule or something like that. I don't know what that's going to look like in the future. Am I going to do this forever? Do I move into other businesses? Do I move into private equity? Do I move into, financing? I don't know, I can't say for sure, but, when it comes to real estate, we're on track right now. We're going to do probably $300,000 in gross rents, this year. And then, we're going to keep growing that number as we acquire more property.
And what is gross rents? Is that just the amount that you're taking in before like mortgages?
Before mortgages and expenses. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the margins on something like that?
So all right, so let's say we had, 300,000, we're looking at probably 120,000 to 130,000 a year net. So yeah, on 300, we're doing about 130,000.
So a lot of your money is being made in the appreciation of these properties.
It's being made in the appreciation. Yep. And the cash flow onset.
And then what are you doing in terms of actual flips, things like that?
I don't do too much flips. I don't do too many flips. No, if I can buy and hold, I will. Like we're selling one of our properties we'll probably, net 100,000 on it, something close to that. So buyers paying 30 grand over the asking price. I mean, that's just the climate that we're in. And really what we did was we looked at the projections. We said, okay, this is a 2-family. We're going to have to spend another 40,000 to get this lower level unit built out. Does it make sense to do that? Or does it make sense to sell this so we can move into a bigger building? And we kind of decided we were going to sell it, pay down a little bit of debt, and then have some cash to move into a bigger building.
So what would you recommend for someone like myself? I'm just kind of starting to get into the real estate game. I partnered with some guys out in Connecticut for a new build. It was their first one.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Dabbling in a little bit into the hard money lending. But ultimately for me, it's like, on a deal, it's like, I want to make X amount, to even kind of, and like, I'm also a little risk adverse, right? So it's like, in my experience so far, it's like, there's kind of like been some headaches involved in like partnerships and like kind of like this new build where it's like, should I just be focusing on my company, right? How much is it like taking away, to deal with like these outside problems? And I think that was some really good advice with like kind of, that's something I've been working on, because that is a discipline where it's like a problem comes up, right, in business, and it's only as big as you make it.
Yep.
And sometimes like you yourself or team members can blow it out of proportion, and you kind of give the devil a foothold there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? To like wreak havoc in your mind.
Yeah.
And he'll make it as big as you let him, and that's,
and as a leader, yeah, exactly. And as a leader, everybody around you is going to feed off of you.
Right.
So maybe, a situation happens and it takes you stepping back or stepping away from everybody. Or for me, like if somebody calls me with something serious, I'll be like, hey, let me get right back to you, and not necessarily give them the opportunity to dump that on me right there, compose myself, say, okay, this is actually, all I have to do is call this guy and do X, Y, Z, done, solved. Call him back. Hey, we're going to do this. Done. Dealing with contractors, everything is the end of the world. Like, oh, we're not going to be able to do this because, the sink's over here. We're just going to be able to, so we're not going to have, the right length to make this happen. And I'm like, so then I'll come into, oh, okay, I'll call you right back and go over there, look at it. And I'll usually just come up with something like, can we just do this? And they're like, well, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm like, let's do it. See you later. So yeah, I think when you give yourself the opportunity to think, you give yourself space from the problem. So many people want your time and your immediate response. And that's the thing with text messaging too. They want you to immediately get back to them and immediately pick up the phone when they call you. And one thing I do now that I never used to do is I drive in the car with the radio off completely. I don't have music on. I don't have podcasts, YouTube. Occasionally I'll do YouTube podcasts or something like that. But I really try to have complete silence in the car. I drive a lot. And it really gives me an opportunity to say, what do I think about this? Not just what is everybody else saying about this, but how do I actually think about this? How do I feel? And it just goes back to like knowing who you are. Like, I actually don't think that this is a big deal. I actually, it's just really drowning out all the other stuff that wants your attention, and saying, how do I actually feel about this? And I love doing that. I think more people should do that. Put down the phone, put down the social media, and just be alone with yourself. Just be alone with yourself. Find out who you are, So yeah, your reaction is everything to your team. Your reaction is everything to, the situation. And if you can make it this big,
right.
What's the worst that's going to happen? That's what you have to look at.
Right.
The worst that happens on a bad deal, you lose. Like I know somebody right now, they're in a bad deal, It's their own fault. They had some investor money. They took that money, spent it on a project, which was not the project that they were supposed to be spending it on. Now they need more money. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know.
Now, what happens in a scenario like that? Because that's essentially like a deal that I got into. Not that they might have spent it on another project, but you know, they spent the phase wrong, right? They came over budget. They asked for phase 4 funding, and they ended up putting that into phase 3 because they were over budget versus being transparent about it.
Very similar situation. Yeah. I was asked, hey, you know,
I guess that does happen.
It does.
In the hard money.
Well, yes. And
is that illegal, by the way? Like in your your scenario, it's like
totally.
You're under contract. This is what you're supposed to use the money for.
You violated the agreement.
Is that fraud, or is that?
I don't know exactly. It's a breach of contract because you're signing paperwork with an investor saying you're going to use X amount of funds for, you know, this project. You know, you're usually filling out some type of draw schedule or you know, amortization schedule on the payback and everything, and that's all signed. Usually attorneys are involved, and that's the case. So yes, absolutely, that's illegal. You shouldn't do that. If somebody gives you money for a project, use the money for that project, or tell them, hey, can we use this for this and get more money?
Right.
You know,
how much integrity like is in this field?
That's a good question. I think there's the same amount of integrity in this as a lot of businesses, a lot of financial, you know, businesses, wealth management, you know, life insurance, you know.
Right.
It's really just, and the investors know, like the investors know, hey, I'm going to give this money. You know, they can, or they may or may not do what they're going to do if it's their first time. If you have an established relationship with them, then, you know, they're used to getting paid. Very similar situation happened, which happened with you. They asked me for my opinion. What should I do? One person said, all right, they should sell the property, take the loss, whatever, pay back the investors. So I offered my opinion. I was like, well, here's what I would probably try to do. I would probably try to, so let's say you have, example is, let's say you have, let's say you, I don't want to say the exact story because then it gets shared and then people know that I'm talking about
it. It could go viral.
Yeah. But okay, so you get the money. Mm-hmm. You spend it on something else, right? And now you need money to finish this phase of the construction, right? What you need to do is finish that phase of the construction so you can get the next release of funds. So you need to find a GC who's going to work with you net 30, figure out a way to pay them a deposit to start the work, complete the work, pay them off of the draw that you get, go get a credit card, right? Figure out how you're going to get the money off the credit card. Everybody can do it, you know, and use that money to do it if you have to. But you just got to find a way. You just can't, like, you know.
Now, do you think I overreacted in this scenario? I think I should, all right, hey, you know, breach of trust there, that kind of thing. Want to just pay the overages? Let's just get this project moving.
I don't think it's an overreaction. I think it's a matter of now making sure that communication is extra clear. And, you know, I think setting the tone is important. So, you know, hey, you know, we had this thing going forward. We had this hiccup. We had this situation going forward. Let's communicate. Let's over communicate on everything, because I don't want to misinterpret something. Let's over communicate, you know? And I think people are people, man. They're going to be flawed. They're going to make mistakes, but,
can I give you a little more information?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm rambling, so please stop me.
No. So in this situation, I kind of pitched them, hey, I'll give you the extra funding. We cleared things up. We'll give you the extra funding. But I want more transparency. So I'll make the payments moving forward versus just like wiring you the money. That way I have a good more oversight to what's going on.
Yeah.
And then we renegotiated like some of the terms. So I get like a higher percentage and I put some things in place. They came back and they're like, nah, we don't really like this. And I was like, okay. They're like, we're just going to put up the funding, but we're not going to charge you interest on it. And I was like, well, I don't really love this because we're 20% over budget. That kind of closes out, like, I'm not on a hard money kind of lend on this. I get a percentage of profit when this thing is sold. If we ramp this up indefinitely, keep doing this going over budget in these phases, then like there's gonna be no profit left over. And then my money kind of sat in this 16-month deal earning nothing.
Right.
And they're like, well, we're well within our contract to do this. So it was kind of like, all right, they could veto my deal, but I couldn't veto theirs or agreement or terms or whatever.
Yeah.
Offer. And so I was just like, no, I don't really like that. And so they're like, well, just have your lawyer call ours, and it just kind of went there right away.
Yeah. That's how you kill a relationship.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, lawyers have no context. 90% of the time you're explaining context to the lawyer.
Right.
You're like, hey, lawyer, here's everything. Here's all the context that you need. Really? Right. Can you give me more context? Yes. Here's more context. They once you do that, it's, I try to avoid. So like, perfect example. I'm buying another building, medical office. It's got some, apartments upstairs, and he's got his attorney on his side. I've got my attorney that I always use on my side. Fantastic. My attorney tends to be slow. He's very thorough and likes to go through.
Who do you use? Can you answer that?
Yeah. Over in North Providence, Mosca. His name's Gerald Mosca. Yeah. So he's done all of our.
I find my attorney's kind of slow too.
Yeah.
I wish I had a faster attorney.
It's not a bad thing. I don't think that it's bad. I'll usually reach out to him and he'll say, hey, title came back. We're looking through something. Like, he reads everything, and he makes fantastic suggestions for my leases. And, he points out very specific things that I should be aware of and considerate of. So I'm never worried about that. But on the other side, they like to move quick. Sellers always want to move quick. I'm selling a property right now in Providence, and I want to move quick because time can kill all deals. As a buyer, you want to move slow.
That's what Tunde says.
Yes. Yep. Shout out to Tunde. No one sells like Tunde sells, man.
That's right. We got to get him on the podcast.
Hey, I'll tell you who's listing my property in Providence that I'm selling, that I'm talking about right now. Tunde sells, man. He's the GOAT. So,
except he's an Eagles fan.
Oh yeah, that's why I love him. Eagles fans, man. We need more of those. Shout out to the Eagles fans. Although we had a rough season, it's depressing. Let's not talk about that. It's very depressing.
Who you rooting for in the Super Bowl?
I'm not watching the Super Bowl. I don't know. Who's in the Super Bowl?
49ers.
Kansas City and 49ers?
Kansas, yeah.
I usually, once the Eagles are out, I'm usually disconnected from football completely until like close to the postseason the next year, if they're doing well. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
I watch an Eagles game, get way too emotionally involved, and get mad at myself because it's such a waste of time that I can't believe I just wasted this time watching this.
I don't know. There's something to be said of sports. I feel like I missed the boat on sports, especially like in the area that I grew up. There's a lot of legacies. Like watching like legacies.
Yeah.
Now I'm watching the highlights.
Yeah. Yeah.
But where were we?
I don't know.
Lawyers?
Yeah, so buyers move slow.
Time kills all deals.
Yeah, time kills all deals. Buyers move slow. Sellers move fast. So anyways, what I was getting at is once you give it to the attorneys with no context, and I think Patrick Bet-David talked about this too. It's like, let's you and I come back to the table and talk, right? Because they have no context. They don't understand the relationship. We sat here, looked each other eye to eye, had a conversation, had a deal, came up with a great plan, great strategy. This is how we're going to execute. This is what we're going to do, right? Lawyers, they just see black and white. That's it. So I try to avoid that whenever I can. I think that's all I was saying, is that if you can avoid, because people will use lawyers, just my lawyer will handle this, my lawyer will do this, my lawyer will do that.
Yeah.
Fine. And I will do that too. Like if I'm in a deal with you and I feel like I've been disrespected, or, it's not a good partnership, you're not following through, things aren't really working out. I'll turn that switch off and wait for you to say, my lawyer is going to contact you. And I'll say, let him contact me. And, you know, that's just it.
And that's something that too, like I said to him, and this is kind of my philosophy. I was like, if respect and fairness, you know, are at the table, I'm at that table. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm willing to talk. But the minute you take respect, fairness off the table, like, I'm not at that table.
That's so huge for me. Respect is, and it's probably a flaw that I have. And I wouldn't say a flaw because I don't really consider it a flaw, but it's probably a weakness that I have is I put a lot of weight on respect, really from my upbringing. You know, my father was very big on respect. And, you know, that's just how we were raised. We were raised, you know, Spanish household. Respect is so important. So if you might say something that came off super disrespectful to me that you maybe didn't even mean to be disrespectful, you know, at all. It wasn't that way. It's just how we kind of interpret things in our own minds, you know. I try not to beat myself up for it, but at the end of the day, yeah, it definitely is something that, like, I will get triggered if I feel like I'm being disrespected.
Yeah, so it was an interesting turn of events where it was just like, hey, you know, we sat down, we were kind of discussing it, and then like, say, hey, I pitched something, you didn't like it, you pitched something, I didn't like it. Well, let's get the lawyer involved. It's like, I guess, you know. Sounds like
they don't want anything to do with the relationship anymore.
Right, and that's kind of how
that's what that sounds like,
you
to
know.
me.
And so, but now it's like we're still in this deal. We got to bring this deal across the finish line.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So what's the next 6 months going to look like?
Yeah. Well, I think you exactly that. Like, you keep it cordial, and you know, I can't speak to relationships and personalities and stuff like that, but I think if like you said, you're just fair, you communicate, or your lawyer communicates at this point, then, you know, you guys will get to the end and have learned an extremely valuable lesson, you know?
Yeah.
And I think
learned a lot.
I think the learning is this is what it all comes back to, is speed, right? Because somebody would say, oh, you moved too quick, right? You partnered with these guys, maybe it was too fast, or maybe it was not the right fit, or whatever have you. But how much did you learn in the process?
Yeah.
Things you would have never known, you know? And now you move on to that next step, and you're miles and light years, you're just ready to do it better. And that's what it's about. It's just getting incrementally better.
So it's almost like your philosophy on being fast is just like learn the lessons you need to learn.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a race to learning lessons. It's a race to learning and experiencing faster so that, you know, I can get to where I want to get to. At the end of the day, if I, you know, the difference between me making a decision now and 3 months from now, how much more information do I need to have? You know, and you know what information you need because you've already done it. So it works well because when you move fast, you can acquire knowledge faster and information faster, which allows you to move faster. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So because I know what to look for in something, you looking at a photo, you know exactly what to look for, right? Because you've done it so many times, you know?
Now, going into this, did you have a mentor or anything?
Oh yeah, I've had many mentors. I live by the general rule, listen to people who are older than me. I try to listen to people who are older than me.
Yeah, I was listening to Dave Ramsey, and he was saying that you shouldn't listen to people who are like young and wealthy, but listen to people who are old and wealthy. Yeah. Because it's like, it's one thing to make money, it's another thing to keep money.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about that. So like Bill Fuchs comes to mind.
Bill, yeah. Bill's a great mentor. He'll always call me. He called me yesterday, actually. I missed his call. Yeah, I think I'll listen to older people who are wealthy or successful, and I'll listen to the ones who aren't successful. I think what also has given me a lot of perspective is being behind the barber chair for so many years and seeing so many people, thousands of people, maybe thousands. I'd say thousands. Yeah. 10 plus years kind of here. Men, you know, who you have a lot of different personality types. A lot of them fit into the same categories, things like that. And you kind of see the disappointment, you see the regret, you see the guilt, you see the joy, what makes them happy. You see what, you know, successful decisions they've made, what poor decisions they've made. And so, yeah, I think learning from people who made bad decisions and maybe now are regretting it, older, having done time in jail or whatever it may be. And then learning from people who are doing, you know, exactly what they want to do and accomplishing the things they want to accomplish.
What were some like common threads?
It's more so personality types.
Yeah.
You know, like you have your introvert, extrovert personality types, which I'm really not big on labels either. But, you know, you have your personality types and it's like, it's hard to describe, but you meet somebody and it's almost like you met them before, or you know somebody who has a very similar personality type, right. You know, and you would kind of see those type of people, you know. And then as a barber, the whole key is, you know, relating to them and mirroring them and, you know, providing a service at the same time you're not clashing personalities with them because you're trying to make them comfortable, you know. So try not to clash personalities. So just, I think seeing that over time has taught me a lot. And I've learned a lot from the people who sat in my chair and some very, very successful people. And, you know, some people who just wish they would have done things differently.
Yeah.
You know,
what's one thing people are wishing they'd done differently?
Usually the thing that always kind of tugs on my heartstrings when it comes to people's regret is things with their children, you know, wishing they would have been in their children's lives more, or not broken up with their significant other to now where they only visit their kids once in a while, once a weekend or something like that, you know. More so now because I'm a father and I love my kids, and you know, I definitely, that hurts when I hear people who have to go through that.
How do you balance your schedule with all the deals that you're doing and, you know, then being married, but also having the business, being married and the kids?
That's a good question. To me, and again, I don't remember where I heard it. I consume, you know, I went through these phases where I would consume a lot of personal development, read and all that stuff. I eliminate the guilt, the feeling like I'm not doing enough here, I'm not doing enough there. I just eliminate that. You have to eliminate that guilt. The world is putting enough pressure on you and I as it is, Sean. If we're going to sit here and put more pressure on ourselves because I didn't wake up at 5 a.m., because I didn't, you know, hug my kid tighter, or I didn't say that thing to my wife that I should have said. Like we have to eliminate that guilt in our heads. And then, you know, just like anybody else, routine, schedule. But I generally don't feel bad about a lot of things that people feel bad about. And that got just turned off in my head. And that's where I've really been able to kind of move fast and grow. And
yeah,
if that makes sense.
So what would be your advice for someone like me trying to get into this game? What would be your advice to kind of get started wisely?
Yeah, my advice to get started would be just find a good deal and get started. You know, I think at the beginning, don't look for home runs. I think you're not going to, especially in today's climate, like, don't look for a home run. Look for a cash flowing property with potential, right? If we're talking about real estate, that you can invest a little bit of money into. It's going to appreciate in value, and it's going to make you money, and you'll be able to increase rents on the tenants and make more money over time. And just lock in with that. And now you'll have one in the chamber. Like you just got that there, right? Time goes on, and and you'll have learned so much just from that, just from owning that. Do you have any rental properties?
No, zero.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just from owning that one rental property, you will learn and meet a lot of people, from contractors. You will learn different types of heating systems and problems that can occur or won't occur. Are you going to be hands off? Are you going to be hands on? Those type of things, right? How much money am I going to have to invest into all this? Some things, am I going to do it myself? Whatever it may be. Just find a good deal and get started on it. Look at 100 deals, just find the right one, and go in. I mean, I've said no to a lot more deals, even more recently too, because again, I've learned over time, I would never buy a 3-family for $700,000.
No.
Right now. I mean,
so with that one, a little context, we obviously run this photography studio and we have a lot of people coming here. Like we have people from overseas that come up like during the summer to like shoot with us or just edit with us, train with us. And so we end up paying housing for them, and it gets really expensive. Like we had someone come up from Brazil doing an internship, and like we had to put them in a hotel. It was like thousands of dollars for basically 45 days. And it wasn't like it was a crazy hotel.
Yeah.
So we were thinking, hey, this makes sense to have a property that we could buy and probably like accelerate the depreciation on it, as like this company is buying it, get the write-off for it, and then have it. So we'd be saving a ton of money. Plus we have shooters that kind of come up, and it's like they just need a hotel for the night. So it's like, put them up here, we can Airbnb it. So there are a lot of things that we do and just kind of needed it. And so it was a cheaper option, probably better options out there. We're actually looking at a 3-family that's like a new build that could be broken up into condominiums. And so that is actually going to be, it's being built now, and that's even more expensive. So frown.
No, I mean, that's a good idea. I mean, from that, from that perspective, that's great. If I were you, I would look into the Rhode Island Housing Workforce Program. They just released it. So the program is right now for new builds. There hasn't been a lot of people tapping into the program. So people are anticipating that they're going to change some of the requirements to be able to renovate. And essentially it's a grant and funding from the government for workforce housing for median incomes. There's some requirements, but I would look into that because that's exactly what you guys need for your business. And maybe it makes more sense to go buy a plot of land for $75,000 and get government funding and build workforce housing, which is, has to be, I think, 10 plus units, and get the government money to finance the whole thing. They have millions and millions to do it. I think the one that they did in Providence recently was Parcel 6. It's called Parcel 6. They just built it in Providence. So yeah, the workforce housing program, it's pretty new, and we've been looking into that. I would definitely look into that if I were you. That's a pretty cool program. Like I said, they're anticipating some loosening up on some of the restrictions of the program so that more people will tap into it, because not a lot of people have gotten into it.
And so it's how, like, people that are willing to build housing for
the workforce. Yeah. So exactly that. 20% of it has to be affordable housing.
And it has to be minimum 10 units.
Minimum 10 units.
Where, like, how do you find property that, because that seems to be the biggest thing, is like finding land with, and then getting the permitting. That seems to take the longest time, and having the right zoning for that land to build, 10 unit.
Yeah. I can't speak to that because I've never done it. And I try to not speak on things that I've never done. But, I mean, look, if you'll get it done. If you're persistent enough, if you're somebody who is not going to give up in the middle of something, you'll get it done. Will it take you this long? Maybe. But next time you do it, it's going to take you this long. And it's going to take you this long, So at some point you'll get it done. So I would say if it's something that you really want, just start, and then you're going to see, and then rely on people like, Bill or anybody else. Jerry's a fantastic architect, hey, Jerry, how do I submit these plans? You know, mutual friend of ours.
Yeah, I'm meeting with Jerry tonight, actually.
Are you?
Deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that should be good.
Is that why you're cutting me off super early?
Got a meeting at 7.
Okay.
More work.
So you're meeting with Jerry after. So
Yeah.
He's a late night guy though.
Literally, my meeting started at 9 a.m. I think I got like a half-hour break for lunch.
It's good for you.
And then like another very short window of time for something else. But
how long are your meetings
nonstop.
typically? All moving mountain stuff or?
Mostly, yeah. Today was all business stuff. Just been dealing with a lot internally. Had some things kind of come up with like our servers and things like that. We went from paying, it's $180 a year for unlimited storage to they wanted, I think, $66,000 a year.
What?
Yeah. So it's a 32,000% increase.
What?
Just out of the blue. And they're like, you have 60 days to migrate all your data off our servers, which is like 500 terabytes.
What?
So kind of that's like been January. And January is supposed to be a very slow month for us. So it's like this off season.
Right.
And it was one of those things though, where it's just like when it first came to me, and there have been some things earlier on that I didn't react to that were like my teammates bring me. It's like, it's like, hey, no, we're not going to go there. Yep. We're going to like compose ourselves. It'll be fine. But with this one, it was just like, I had to step back, definitely lost some sleep over it. And now it's just like, we're getting it done. We're making it happen. But it's like another one of those things where it's just like, all right, you handle that small one decently well. How do you handle this one?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, another plate on the weights.
Yep. Yep.
And so, and it's forcing us into, I think anytime something like that happens to you, it's an opportunity, right? So it's like, it's forcing us into learning.
Yep.
It's like, hey, we got to stop what we thought we should be working on. We got to work on this other thing. This opportunity we learned. I must have met with probably 60 different people on like different solutions. And there's no perfect solution out there, which I've learned in a lot of different areas. And it's like learning a ton. The team's learning a lot, and we're going to probably get into a better solution than we're in a more flexible solution that we have more customizable.
Yep. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And so overall it's a win, but it's like when you get punched in the face, like it doesn't feel like a win.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's
like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Why did you punch me?
I know. Yeah. I mean, kind of small, not a, $66,000 problem, but it did remind me of when we got our first bad review for the alarm company. And we had always prided ourselves on our service, and we got a bad review. And I mean, we lost sleep. I mean, I was beside myself. I couldn't believe it. Like this thing that we had built, we were so focused on excellence, 5-star service, providing, spending countless hours training, being there for people, versus other companies would just come, set it up, see you later. And, we had a bad review. So, I remember just feeling distraught and just, I can't believe I let my team down. I can't believe I let this person down who trusted me, and all these different things in my head. And it wasn't the last bad review we had, and that just reminded me, it's like, things are always going to be like that, especially as a business owner. You're going to have plans, you're going to have expectations, you're going to set things up perfectly, and then somebody's going to come by and throw a grenade in it. And then, how you react is how you react.
Right.
If you run for the hills, if you shut down shop and quit, if you say, oh, we're never going to store anything here again, we're going to be a cloud, whatever, whatever you guys decide. But man, so many people get stuck there and quit and give up at the first sign of trouble, Well, I think too, it's like the winter is always bad for cash flow, right? So it was like first off the bat, 2 weeks in, we weren't even close to hitting our sales goal for the month, which we ended up closing out, but it's like all came in 11th hour. Yeah.
Here we're at 31st of the month. And, plus we're paying out bonuses from the end of last year.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's all kind of hitting at once, and you get hit with this unexpected price. And in my head, it's like, I'm trying to move the needle forward.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get, my bread up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make money out here. Like, I'm trying to get ahead. I'm trying to hit my goals.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just get slapped. And it's like 66K. It's like, all right, we're already kind of feeling it with sales. We just paid out all this payroll. Cash flow is tight anyway in the winter. Now they want like this huge price tag. And it's like basically you're like held hostage. It's like you either pay the 66,000 or it's like you lose all your client footage, And so we put stuff out with clients, and then they're all upset because you're, which I won't even get into that. It's a long story. That's its own episode right there. But yeah, it could be quite a bit. And I think that's the hardest thing for me. It's just like business is very challenging, right? You always have like these problems that come up, things that are outside your control.
Yeah.
You work so hard, right?
Yeah.
And then you get a bad review.
Yep.
Which I remember our first bad review, and it's just like you have this perfect record, and then someone comes along, it's like you get the 1 star.
Yeah, it's like a boxer, right? Like a boxer, their whole thing is being undefeated, and then they get 1 loss, and their record is tainted forever.
And I think for us, it came during COVID too, which is like it was almost like inevitable,
Oh, and the worst is when you get a bad review that it isn't even like qualify as a bad review. Like the bad review we got was simply because the woman just didn't understand what we were trying to explain to her. She was an attorney and she didn't want to listen. We were trying to explain things to her. This is how your system works. She made a lot of assumptions. But anyways, it can definitely be crippling. It can definitely be crippling.
Yeah. And that's why like real estate kind of like, we're just trying to find easier ways, right? Where it's like business can be very rewarding, but sometimes like you look at the margins, you're like, all this work for this, And so it's like you try to remain grateful, but it's like, hey, there's got to be an easier way. There's got to be a better way, And real estate seems like one of those. No,
nope, not easier. Nope, nope, not at all. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's literally the same thing. Customers, tenants, same thing. Personalities, emotions,
tenants. Yeah, I could see that, and that's why I kind of stayed away.
Breaking.
Yeah,
in the middle of the winter, you buy a building or you have a property you bought it in July. Everything's great. Everything's going fantastic. October, November comes in, they turn on the heat. Hey, the heat's not working. Why is the heat not working?
You know what it is? I think because like every time I see you, you just seem to be composed and good mood. So I'm like, oh, Coco's making a lot of money. His life he's chilling.
No,
it's not. Easy.
No, it's not. It's not. I like to think my wife does a lot of the freaking out for us. Like, a heating system goes down. My wife, what are we going to do? Oh, what's going to happen? We can't do this. And I usually just turn to solution mode. And I think you as a business owner probably operate the same way where let's just find the solution. Let's get there quick.
Yeah.
What's the solution? The solution is we got to replace the electrical thing over here. Okay, great. How much is that? This much money. Do it. The faster I get it done,
right,
the faster it's off my brain. And so I put less value on I think I put so much value on my mind and being able to have a clear mind and being able to not be consumed and my time be consumed with things that I can't fix, things that I can't control, those things just become second nature. All right, let's figure it out. This is real estate. We got to find a solution and do it. There's a leak in the roof. There's water coming through here. There's this and that, you're definitely not easier. It's very much the same. And sometimes it's harder because you're dealing with people's, where they live.
Right.
Or you invest, 13 grand into renovating a unit and somebody comes in and they might check all the boxes as a tenant, but all it takes is that one boyfriend or girl. It's always a boyfriend or girlfriend that moves in or something, destroy the unit or something like that. No, you just got whatever the challenge is. You just got to figure out the solution and not dwell on it too much. And I think that, and not feel guilty. And, I waste zero time regretting things. I don't really regret much. And I think you'll be okay. I think you evaluate. Listen, you're only going to be able to make a decision based on what you know at the time. So you can only decide that this is going to be a good deal based on what you know at the time. If something hidden that somebody had in their back pocket comes up later on, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
But you can't walk around assuming that everybody has something hidden in their back pocket.
Right.
Because if you do, then, they're just everybody else, you're going to see people just.
And that is my, my perspective, I think, in the real estate game, where it's like, I think because I have a bad, not even a bad, but like just my perspective of real estate agents, like I don't even know if it's a notch above car salesmen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, I just never,
There's only one real estate agent I use. That's Tunde.
That's Tunde. Yeah. So I think for me, I start looking at these deals a little bit closer and like the people involved and just like kind of my gut.
Yeah. I think, you can use a real estate agent by all means. They will guide you through a lot of things, but I think if you're an intelligent person, you look at things a certain way, you're going to have a different perspective than that real estate agent. Always remember something. A real estate agent is kind of like an employee, right? They're only going to be doing this because you're paying them, right? Some people, not Tunde. They're doing what they're doing because they're going to get paid in the end, and that's why they're there, So, just when you're doing that, remember that and just kind of understand those motives. And if you can do it direct with the seller. I called a lady off a cold call. She had 11 acres in Foster. She was going to sell it to me, seller finance. There was a burnt down 2-family house on it. I mean, a 2-bedroom house on it. She was going to sell it to me, seller finance. When I was just hitting the cold, I just started calling people, and so you can find people who will sell you the property. This seller, he, no real estate agent. This is direct to him. He's going to hold the note for 30 years, 6%, $1 million note. No banks, no tax credit, no W-2s, credit check, just straight up with him, and you'll find there's people out there like that just want to sell, and they know that a lot of people are aging out. So a lot of investors are getting older, and they understand they don't want to pay a middleman to do a transaction,
Right.
Nothing against real estate agents. I love real estate. I love all aspects of real estate. I love what real estate agents bring to the table. I think they're very valuable. But me being me, I look at it as an advantage to be able to go direct to a seller and say, hey, let's bypass the middleman and let's you and I come to a deal. What do you need from me?
Right. Yeah, you save quite a bit.
Yeah. 5%, 4%.
Yeah. $1 million, that's a lot.
It's a lot. Yep.
Well, that concludes our time here on this episode, Moving the Mountain.
It's been a
Creative
pleasure.
Leadership Podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Anything that you want to kind of shout out, whether it be your business or kind of what you're working on?
Yeah. So, as I said, I own an alarm company. It's called RI Home Security. We do residential and business alarm systems, video surveillance and access control. We're located right here in Rhode Island. And, we appreciate the opportunity to come on here and just share a little bit about what I do. Just try to be myself,
Cool. Yeah, we actually use your guys' system. Been using it for, I think, almost 2 years. Yeah.
Has it been 2 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's great. I love some of the updates that I'm seeing like on the platform too. It's been cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, everybody gets like an access code and it's worked well for us.
Yeah. And we're looking for other home service providers to partner with, and we have a lot of smart technology, smart thermostats and hubs, and so we're trying to expand in 2024, and we'll see what happens. It's exciting.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again for watching.